Imagine walking into a luxury car dealership, excited about finding something special, only to be judged and dismissed based on how you look. That's exactly what happened to Keanu Reeves. On an ordinary day, Keanu entered a high-end car dealership in Los Angeles. He wasn't looking to show off or indulge in extravagance. Instead, he was searching for a rare classic car he could restore and turn into something meaningful. But the staff didn't see that. All they noticed was a man in a worn leather jacket and faded jeans. They didn't recognize him as one of the most beloved actors in Hollywood. Instead of treating him with respect, they ignored him, whispered behind his back, and even confronted him with hostility. Little did they know, the man they dismissed would teach them a lesson, and the world, about the true meaning of respect. Keanu Reeves is no stranger to simplicity. Despite his global fame, he often enjoys the small things in life: a warm cup of coffee from his favorite cafe, greeting the barista by name, and quietly walking through the streets of Los Angeles. On this particular day, Keanu had a clear purpose in mind. For months, he'd been searching for a rare classic car, not as a status symbol, but as a meaningful project. He wanted to restore it and use it for a cause greater than himself, perhaps donating it or turning it into a tribute. This dream brought him to a luxury car dealership, known for its exclusive, high-end inventory. The dealership was as lavish as one would imagine. Gleaming floors, showroom lighting that made every vehicle look like a work of art, and staff dressed in tailored suits. The air itself seemed to carry an aura of exclusivity, almost warning off those who didn't fit the mold. Keanu stepped inside, his black leather jacket and worn jeans standing out against the polished perfection. Despite his modest appearance, his eyes sparkled as they landed on a car tucked in the back of the showroom, a beautifully preserved classic. Its curved lines and vintage design spoke to him instantly. He approached a salesman who was scrolling through his phone, trying not to disturb him. "Excuse me," Keanu said politely, pointing to the car. "Could you tell me more about this model?" The salesman barely glanced up before replying, "Hang on, I'll get someone," and walked away without another word. Keanu didn't let the indifference bother him. He simply nodded and stayed near the car, admiring its details, the paintwork, the craftsmanship, and the sheer history it seemed to carry. But as he waited, the air around him began to shift. Employees exchanged whispers, some glancing at him out of the corners of their eyes. "Does he even know where he is?" one murmured. "He doesn't look like he belongs here," another added with a quiet chuckle. Keanu noticed the comments, but chose not to react. Instead, he adjusted his stance, placing his hands in his pockets, and continued studying the car. He didn't need to prove himself to anyone. Minutes later, a man with a stiff posture and a confident stride approached him. It was Richard, the manager. His suit was impeccable, his gaze sharp, and his expression skeptical. "This model is exclusive, very rare," Richard began, his tone more testing than informative. "That's exactly what I'm looking for," Keanu replied calmly, meeting the manager's gaze with unwavering politeness. But Richard wasn't convinced. He looked Keanu up and down, his eyes lingering on the scuffed boots and old jacket. "Well, I hope you're ready. This car isn't for just anyone," he said with a smirk. Keanu simply smiled, his demeanor calm yet firm. "That's why I'm here," he replied. Richard raised an eyebrow, his doubt clear. The tension in the room grew heavier as Richard leaned slightly closer. "Do you realize this car costs more than most homes in Beverly Hills?" he asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'm aware," Keanu said evenly, his calm composure unshaken. For a moment, it seemed as though the conversation might take a professional turn. But the manager's next words shattered any hope of that. "Look, with all due respect, You don't exactly seem to fit the profile of someone who buys cars like this." The subtle insult hung in the air. Other employees, who had been pretending to work, were now openly watching the exchange. Keanu remained composed, his voice steady as he replied, "Curious how you seem to know so much about people just by what they wear. That says more about you than it does about me." Richard's expression hardened. It was clear he wasn't used to being challenged, especially by someone he had already dismissed in his mind. What Richard didn't realize was that the man standing before him wasn't just anyone. Keanu Reeves wasn't there to prove a point, but he would end up making one that neither Richard nor anyone else in the dealership would ever forget. The atmosphere in the dealership grew colder with every passing moment. Richard's condescending smirk and biting remarks filled the air with tension. Employees and a few customers nearby had stopped what they were doing, their attention now fully on the unfolding confrontation. Keanu, however, remained composed, even as Richard's comments became more personal. "People like you come in here all the time," Richard scoffed, taking a step closer. "They look around, dream a little, and then leave without spending a dime. If you're here to play pretend, let me save you the trouble and show you the door." Keanu tilted his head slightly, his calm gaze never leaving Richard. "And what if I'm not here to dream?" he asked quietly. Richard chuckled dryly, clearly amused by what he saw as an absurd statement. "Then I'd say you're in the wrong place. This showroom is for people who can pay, people who have something to prove. Honestly, you don't look like you have either." The sting of those words echoed through the room, but Keanu didn't flinch. Instead, he took a deep breath, his voice steady as he replied, "Funny. I've always thought real luxury wasn't about proving anything, it's about how we treat others." Richard's smirk disappeared, replaced by a flush of anger. He leaned in closer, his tone now laced with venom. "Listen here, buddy. I don't need a lecture on morals from someone who doesn't even belong here. You don't know who you're dealing with." Keanu held his ground, his calm demeanor unshaken. "You're right. I don't know you. But I can tell a lot about you by the way you're acting. Respect isn't something you save for a select few. It's something everyone deserves." The tension in the room reached its breaking point. Richard, clearly losing control of his temper, raised his voice. "Don't tell me what to do. You don't belong here, and I won't waste any more time on this." Then, in a rash moment of frustration, Richard did something that no one could have predicted. He raised his fist as if to intimidate Keanu, or perhaps even strike him. Time seemed to slow down. Gasps rippled through the room as Richard's fist moved forward. But Keanu reacted with the calm precision of someone who had faced far more intense situations. He raised his hand and caught Richard's fist mid-air. It wasn't an act of aggression, it was an act of control. Keanu's grip was firm but not forceful, a silent statement that he would not be pushed around. The entire showroom fell silent. All eyes were on Keanu and Richard. For a moment, Richard stood frozen, stunned that his blow had been intercepted so effortlessly. Keanu's calm voice broke the silence. "The anger you're feeling right now, it's not about me. Maybe it's time you looked inward and figured out what's really going on before you take it out on others." As he spoke, he gently released Richard's hand, stepping back with the same calm composure he had maintained throughout the encounter. Richard stumbled slightly, his confidence shattered. Keanu adjusted his jacket, his expression a mixture of resolve and quiet disappointment. "Respect doesn't cost a thing," he said, his voice cutting through the heavy silence. "But for some people, it seems harder to find than any car in this place." The weight of his words hung in the air as Keanu turned and began walking toward the exit. The sound of his footsteps echoed through the silent showroom. Just before he reached the door, Keanu noticed something out of the corner of his eye. A young man standing in the corner, holding up his phone. He had been recording the entire interaction. Keanu paused for a brief moment, locking eyes with the man. The young man nodded slightly, a gesture of quiet solidarity. Keanu returned the nod with a faint smile before stepping through the glass doors and disappearing into the Los Angeles sunlight. Inside the dealership, Richard stood motionless, his face pale, his once confident posture reduced to a slouch. Around him, employees exchanged uncomfortable glances, unsure of what to say or do. The video of the incident, recorded by the young man, wouldn't stay hidden for long. And when the world saw what had happened in that showroom, the fallout would be as devastating as it was inevitable. By the next morning, the video recorded at the dealership had taken over the internet. Social media platforms were flooded with shares, comments, and hashtags. The footage was unmistakable. A manager dripping with arrogance, dismissive of a humble man in a leather jacket. Until that man calmly stopped his aggression and delivered a powerful lesson on respect. The reaction was swift and overwhelming. Comments ranged from outrage to disbelief. How could anyone treat Keanu Reeves like that? He's literally the kindest person in Hollywood. This isn't just about Keanu. This is how elitist places treat anyone they think isn't worthy. Disgraceful. Respect doesn't cost a thing. Keanu proved that yet again. News outlets and entertainment blogs quickly picked up the story. Headlines like, "Keanu Reeves teaches a car dealership manager a priceless lesson," dominated websites and feeds. The video's turning point, the moment Keanu caught Richard's fist mid-air, was replayed countless times, often accompanied by his now iconic line, "Respect doesn't cost a thing, but for some people, it's harder to find than any car here." As the video continued to spread, the dealership became a lightning rod for criticism. Its social media pages were bombarded with negative reviews, comments, and calls for accountability. Customers announced boycotts, and hashtags like "Respect is luxury" and "Learn from Keanu" began trending worldwide. The dealership tried to manage the fallout, releasing a lukewarm statement. "We deeply regret the misunderstanding that occurred at our showroom. Our team is committed to providing the highest level of service to all clients." But the public wasn't buying it. The statement lacked sincerity and failed to acknowledge the root of the problem, an entrenched culture of elitism and judgment. Meanwhile, employees from the dealership began speaking to the press anonymously, painting an even darker picture of the workplace culture. Richard's behavior wasn't new, one employee revealed. He always treated people like that, whether they were rich or not. He thought he was better than everyone. This only fueled the fire of public outrage. Critics demanded not just an apology, but systemic changes to how businesses like this operated. People began sharing their own stories of discrimination and bias in luxury spaces, further amplifying the message behind Keanu's quiet yet powerful stand. For Richard, the fallout was personal and immediate. Under mounting pressure from both the public and the dealership's owners, he was fired within days. But by then, the damage to the dealership's reputation was irreparable. Its once loyal clientele had turned their backs, sales numbers plummeted, and its luxurious showroom now stood as a cautionary tale of what happens when arrogance replaces respect. Amidst all this, Keanu remained silent. He wasn't one to seek revenge or relish the humiliation of others. While the world buzzed with opinions and reactions, Keanu quietly reflected on what had happened. "It's not about me," he told a close friend during a conversation about the incident. "This is about how we treat each other. What happened at that dealership happens to people everywhere, every day. Maybe this is a chance to do something about it." Keanu's humility and perspective only deepened the public's admiration for him. While the dealership scrambled to salvage what was left of its reputation, Keanu was already thinking about how to turn this moment into a message that could inspire real change. The young man, who had recorded the video, was also swept up in the story's impact. He later shared his own post, expressing why he felt compelled to record the scene. "I didn't know who Keanu was at first. I just saw someone being treated unfairly. We all deserve respect, no matter what we look like or how much money we have." That sentiment resonated deeply, capturing the heart of what made the story so powerful. It wasn't just about Keanu's fame. It was about his refusal to let judgment and arrogance define the moment. While the world was buzzing about the dealership video, Keanu Reeves remained as quiet as ever. He wasn't one to seek public validation or dwell on the drama. But deep down, he knew the moment carried the potential to inspire something greater. Instead of addressing the incident directly, Keanu decided to take action in his own way. A few days after the video went viral, he walked into a different dealership. This one small, family-owned, and unassuming. There were no plush carpets or glitzy lights, just friendly smiles and a genuine sense of warmth. The owner, a middle-aged man named Sam, greeted him at the door with a handshake and a cheerful, "Welcome. How can I help you today?" Keanu smiled and replied, "I'm looking for something special. A classic car that represents something more than just luxury. I think you can help me." Unlike the previous dealership, there were no judgmental glances, no whispers about what Keanu was wearing. Sam treated him like any other customer, taking the time to show him around and answer his questions. The interaction was simple, respectful, and exactly what Keanu had been looking for. After careful consideration, Keanu found a car that fit his vision. It wasn't just a vehicle. It was a symbol of everything he believed in: equality, humility, and respect. He posed for a photo with Sam and his staff, later posting it on his social media with a caption that spoke volumes. "True luxury is being treated with respect. Thank you for reminding me of that." The post went viral almost instantly, not just because of Keanu's celebrity status, but because of the powerful message it carried. People were drawn to the idea that respect and dignity should come first, no matter the setting. The ripple effects were immediate and far-reaching. The hashtag number "Respect is Luxury" exploded on social media, sparking a global conversation about how people are treated in different industries, particularly in luxury spaces. Thousands shared their own experiences of being judged or dismissed based on their appearance, background, or perceived social status. Keanu's story became a rallying cry for change. Businesses, large and small, began rethinking their customer service practices. Even some luxury brands, fearing the kind of reputational damage the first dealership had suffered, publicly embraced more inclusive values. Meanwhile, Keanu wasn't done yet. The car he purchased became part of an even bigger plan. He had it restored to its former glory, ensuring every detail was perfect. Then, he organized a charity auction, using the car as a symbol of everything the story had come to represent. At the event, Keanu stood before a room of attendees, celebrities, philanthropists, and fans alike. In his signature humble style, he delivered a short but unforgettable speech. This car started as just an object, but after everything that's happened, it now carries something much greater, a lesson. Respect isn't something you earn because of wealth or status. It's something everyone deserves, no matter who they are. And when we give it freely, we create the kind of world we all want to live in. The auction raised millions of dollars, all of which went to organizations promoting equality, inclusion, and social justice. Keanu's actions inspired others to do the same, leading to a wave of charitable initiatives and campaigns centered on dignity and respect. For the young man who recorded the original video, seeing the impact of his small gesture was life-changing. He shared a heartfelt post about how the moment taught him the power of standing up for what's right, even in the smallest ways. As for the dealership where it all began, its struggles continued. The backlash from the video, combined with the departure of key clients, left the business in disarray. Despite their attempts to rebrand and restructure, the damage to their reputation was irreparable. The incident became a cautionary tale in the business world, a stark reminder of what happens when arrogance replaces respect. Keanu, however, refused to let the story end on a negative note. He saw the experience not as a personal grievance, but as an opportunity to shine a light on a universal truth. "It's not about who I am or what I've done," he said in a rare interview about the incident. "It's about how we treat each other. Respect doesn't cost a thing, but it's the most valuable gift we can give." The car he purchased became a symbol of transformation, a reminder that even in moments of conflict, grace and humility can turn negativity into something positive. Keanu Reeves' story is more than just a tale of a celebrity confronting arrogance. It's a reminder of the power of respect and humility in an often judgmental world. What began as a tense encounter in a luxury car dealership became a global conversation about dignity, inclusion, and the way we treat one another. At its core, the lesson is simple. Respect shouldn't depend on how someone looks, how much money they have, or what they wear. It's a fundamental right, not a privilege. Keanu's calm composure in the face of disrespect demonstrated that strength isn't about overpowering others, but about staying true to your values, even when it's difficult. His words, "Respect doesn't cost a thing, but for some people, it's harder to find than any car in this place," resonated deeply because they were universal. It wasn't just about his experience. It was about everyone who's ever been judged or dismissed unfairly. The ripple effects of this moment are still being felt. The hashtags #respect is luxury and #learn from Keanu continue to circulate online, with people sharing their own stories of resilience and self-worth. Businesses are rethinking how they interact with customers, and individuals are reflecting on their own biases and assumptions. Even luxury brands, often seen as bastions of exclusivity, are beginning to promote more inclusive practices. Keanu's quiet stand served as a catalyst for meaningful change in an industry that often values appearances over authenticity. Reflecting on the experience, Keanu shared a profound insight. "I've learned that even difficult moments can become opportunities for change." Respect doesn't just transform individuals, it transforms communities, workplaces, and even the world. It starts small, but its impact is limitless. The car he purchased and restored went on to symbolize this transformation. At the charity auction, it wasn't just a vehicle being sold, it was a lesson, a story, and a call to action. The millions of dollars raised from its sale went to organizations dedicated to promoting equality and inclusion, ensuring the message reached far beyond the confines of that dealership. For many, this story is a reminder that change doesn't always come from grand gestures. Sometimes, it's the small, quiet moments, standing your ground, offering a kind word, or treating someone with dignity, that leave the greatest impact. Keanu didn't just win the respect of those who watched his story unfold. He reminded the world that respect itself is the most valuable currency we have. And as his words echo in our minds, we're left with one undeniable truth. Even in the simplest moments, the way we treat others defines who we are.